In this video, we're going to walk through how to set up your nation and take your first few turns in Summit. My name is Charles, co-founder of Summit, and I'm going to be your guide as we walk through the basics of setup and gameplay. So what's needed to play Summit? Every single player needs their own deck of at least 54 cards. Every single deck in our products comes ready to play from the box. You're also going to need a few dice that you can share amongst each other or bring your own. We also recommend having a calculator or pen and paper handy to keep track of GP, or government points, the in-game currency of Summit. Before we get into it, let's go over the 4 main card types of Summit. These are the foundation of your nation and build up the majority of your strategies. Let's first talk about leader cards. These represent your nation's politicians. We have a wide range of classes and subclasses that every single politician fits into based off of their political ideologies. Each class and subclass has its own ability, and then each leader card has its own unique ability, or its third ability on the bottom. Each leader card can fit into 2 preferred positions, which we have 5 of in Summit. First, we're going to talk about asset cards. These fall into 6 different classes. We have manufacturing, logistics, infrastructure, education, military, and commodity. These are used to generate your country GP and engage in combat and trade. Next, we're going to talk about policy cards. These reflect your nation's beliefs on economic, social, and military issues. They can be temporary, instant, or indefinite. These modify your country's overall ability to operate effectively when focused on certain objectives. Next, we're going to talk about random event cards. When these are drawn, these must be played instantly. These have both positive and negative effects. These represent unexpected events like coups, political scandals, natural disasters, anything that you could think of. Now that we've walked through the 4 main card types of Summit, let's talk about setting up your first game. As stated earlier, every single player needs their own deck of at least 54 cards. Every single one of our products with the deck in it ships the deck ready to play. So first things first, every single player is going to start by shuffling their deck. Okay, now that your deck is shuffled, you're going to want to go through your deck and find the first 2 leader cards that you see. Alright, now that you have your first 2 leaders, these are going to go into the head of state and vice head of state positions. As stated earlier, leader cards have 5 preferred positions. That's the head of state, vice head of state, treasurer, secretary of defense, and public voice. Now at the start of the game, you only have the head of state and vice head of state unlocked, so your first 2 leader cards are going to be going into those 2 positions. You may choose which card goes into which position, but if they are not in one of their preferred positions, you do not get any of the leader cards' abilities or benefits. Now that you have your first 2 leader cards selected, you're going to reshuffle the deck slightly and then draw 8 cards. If you drew a bad hand, you have the option to mulligan, which means discarding this hand and redrawing a new hand with 1 less card this time. To mulligan, simply take your hand, reshuffle it into the deck, and draw back a new hand with 1 less card than what you had previously. Mulligans can be done over and over again until you have a hand that you think is best, but remember, for each mulligan, you're drawing 1 less card in your hand than before. Now that you have a hand that you're happy with, it's important to add 25 GP to your starting balance. Once all players have their starting hand, their 2 leader cards in play, and 25 GP in their bank, we can begin the first turn. To figure out who plays first, all players can roll a dice. Highest number starts. Each turn in Summit represents a critical moment for your country. This is where you begin trading, playing cards, and communicating with other people. Your first turn in Summit is a little bit different than your following turns. You don't draw a card on your first turn, and you're immediately skipped to your play phase, where you can pay GP to begin playing cards. Now that it's my first turn, I'm going to begin looking to invest in some cards that would generate me GP moving forward. If I was to play an asset card, I should take into consideration the cost, which can be seen in the top left of the card, as well as the activation time at the bottom, which tells you how many turns it takes to activate the card. Let's say that I play this water filtration for large cities card. It has an activation of 2 and a cost of 4. I would subtract the 4 GP from my balance when I play the card. I would then rotate the card in 45-degree increments to the right based off its activation time. So because this one has an activation time of 2, I will turn it twice in 45 degrees to the right. This will tell me that in 2 turns, this card will become active. I'm then going to look to play cellular infrastructure, which again costs 4 GP, but this one activates in 1 turn. So I would only turn it 45 degrees to the right once. Now let's say I wanted to play a policy card. These enter play active, so after paying the cost to play it, I would begin receiving the benefit the same turn that I played it. Let's say I wanted to play a new leader card. Let's quickly talk a bit more about the preferred positions. As stated earlier, you start with the head of state and vice head of state, but you don't have the treasurer, secretary of defense, or public voice unlocked yet. To unlock the treasurer, you need 3 GP producing asset cards in play. To unlock the Secretary of Defense, you need 3 military asset cards in play, and to unlock the public voice, you need 3 policy cards in play. So if I wanted to play Wesley Langford, who is a treasurer and Secretary of Defense, I would either need to get 3 GP producing asset cards or 3 military asset cards in play. Let's say this leader card was a head of state or vice head of state, I would be able to swap them out for the cost of 5 GP. If I was to do this, the leader card in play goes back to my hand and the new leader card takes its slot. It's important to note that you do not receive the abilities of the leader cards if they are not in one of their preferred positions. Now that everyone's played their first turn, let's look and see what the second turn and turn onwards look like. Last turn, I played 2 asset cards with 2 different activation times. I will adjust both of these by turning them in 45-degree increments to the left, showing that one turn has passed. After adjusting for activation times, we now move into the draw phase. This is where you would draw 1 card. After drawing a card, you are able to mulligan, which means discarding 2 cards in exchange for drawing 1 additional card. This can be done as many times as you want, but needs to take place after your activation, but before you add up your GP. So after I've drawn my card and mulliganed if I'd like, I would then add up all the GP that I would generate this turn. Last turn, we played cellular infrastructure, which generates 1 GP passively. Because this is now active, I would now receive this GP benefit, adding it to my calculator. It's also important to take into account every single card that you have in play that's active. Leader cards often have passive benefits, as well as policy cards, depending on what's in play. Now that I've adjusted for activation time, drawn a card, mulliganed if I'd liked, and then added up all the GP that I would generate this turn, I move into the play phase. This is where I can play additional cards, trade with other players, or begin talking about creating alliances or anything of that matter. After my play phase, it's important that I audibly tell the next player that I've completed my turn. When it's not my turn, I am unable to touch or move any of the cards unless I'm conducting trade with another player during their turn. It's important to note that when it isn't your turn, it's still wise to think ahead and figure out what you plan to do your next turn. This saves time and shortens the length of the games. Now I'm sure you're wondering, what's the point of all of this? How do you win? You win a game of Summit by being the last player or last alliance standing. You're eliminated in a game of Summit by having a negative GP balance at the end of 2 turns in a row, or by having all of your leader cards occupied by opposing military asset cards at the end of your turn, which we'll talk about momentarily. If a game of Summit gets to a point where only one alliance stands, then we choose to end the game as an alliance victory or duke it out until one player stands. How do alliances work in Summit? Alliances are crucial for the development and security of your country. However, they are often only times held up by word of mouth and trust, so it's very important to choose who you alliance with wisely. We have 2 preset types, but the limitations are endless in regards to how those alliances are set up. Our first type is a pact. This allows you to share a turn with another player. Your cards remain separate, but you're able to deploy cards together in military actions. The second type is a block. This is an economic alliance. You'll notice that some asset, policy, and leader cards provide bonuses for being in a block. Frameworks for other alliances are completely up to the players, whether that's an agreement to support someone in a conflict or avoid trading with a country. Players are encouraged to debate and negotiate in regards to the terms of their alliances. Alliances can be broken at any time, so stay alert. Choose your enemies cautiously, but your allies wisely. Now let's talk about what trade looks like in Summit. When cards are placed in the deployed/traded card zone, they must wait there for 1 rotation before arriving to their destination. A lot of things can be traded in Summit: asset cards, policy cards, and GP. If I was to trade a card that I currently have in hand to another player, that other player would receive that card into their hand. If they were to trade me a card that they already have played, it would arrive to me in play. If I was to send them GP, like a card, it would still take 1 rotation to arrive there. Now let's walk through an example of what trade would look like. Let's say I want to trade with player B. It is my turn, and I want to trade him this card. So what I would do during my turn is place this in the deployed/traded card zone. He would then place his card in the deployed/traded card zone that he plans to send me in return. After one rotation, aka my next turn, we would then both receive these cards. To put it simply, if the trade occurs during my turn, we would both receive those cards during my following turn. Now let's talk about the combat in Summit. Combat is quite advanced, but it can be broken down into a few simple principles. First things first, when I want to go to war with someone, I need to declare war first. I can do this verbally, in which I would have to wait an additional turn before I'm able to deploy any military asset cards to them, or I can use something like a policy, an asset, or a leader card ability to bypass that wait time. We do have that wait time to where when I declare war on someone, I need to wait a full rotation. That gives them the time to make the first move or set up their defenses accordingly. This balances the game overall, but again, there are ways to get around it. Now that I've waited my one rotation after declaring war, I'm able to deploy my military assets. Alright, last turn I declared war, and now this turn I can go to war. So what this looks like is, after I'm able to deploy my cards, I select which of my active military asset cards I want to use and what I want to target. I can target assets or leader cards, but for policies, I must use other policies or leader abilities to target and destroy those. So let's say I want to target his transcontinental oil pipeline with my fast attack craft and attack submarines. What I would do is take my fast attack craft and attack submarines and push them into the deployed/traded card zone in between us. I would also point them in a way that makes it clear that that is what I am targeting. Alright, so now that I've ended my turn, it's now the defending player's turn. What do? So they select which card or cards they'll defend with and place those in front of the targeted card. When their turn ends, those cards are set on defending it, then unable to change their mind after their turn ends. So let's say they want to defend with their anti-tank rocket launchers and air-to-surface support jets. They'd place these in front of the card that they're defending, in between my cards. So now after their turn is ended, and it is my turn now, the battle begins. The defending cards create lanes, dictating which cards will battle what. The defending player is then able to remove his cards from their lanes and can swap them, placing them back face down. I can choose if I want to swap mine after this. Those steps are completely optional, but allow players to bluff, potentially getting the matchups that they wanted based off of inefficiencies and efficiencies and special abilities. After both players are set, the cards are flipped and the battles can begin. The attacking player uses their offensive score, and the defending player uses their defensive score. Add or subtract efficiencies or other abilities, then each player rolls the dice and adds that to their total. Highest number wins. When the attacking player wins, they have a few options. During this turn, they may retreat the card, they may attack another defending card if it won the other lane, or I may move to occupy or destroy the target card. Another option would be to target an uninvolved card somewhere else in their country, but that would take another rotation to get there. So let's say the other player decided to only defend with one card. What would that look like? I choose which my card battles theirs, and then I choose which card immediately bypasses to occupy or destroy the targeted card. Regardless of the results of this battle, my card is still there. So now let's go over what occupying and destroying looks like. When I occupy, a few things occur. I receive all the benefits of the card during my turn. The original owner receives none of them. This is the major part, but the owner of the card must discard the original cost of the card at the beginning of each of their turns if it's still occupied. This allows you to drain their GP and eliminate them that way. If they want to get rid of me, they must attack it, which they can do so ignoring deployment time because it's so close and already in their country. I use my defensive score, and they use their offensive score. And during my turn, while my card is there, I can choose to destroy the occupied card, leave peacefully, or deploy to another card. If I destroy it, I may choose to deploy back to my country, or attack another, or go for one of their leader cards. To defeat a player by capital occupation, I must occupy all of their leader cards. I would do this the same as attacking an asset card. I would choose which of my military asset cards to send, and I would choose which of my leader cards to target. After deploying there, they would of course have an option to defend it, and if I was to get through, I would then occupy. If I was to occupy all of their leader cards at the end of their turn, they lose. While their leader cards are occupied, they receive none of their abilities, and they cannot swap that leader card out. I need all in-play leader cards occupied in order for them to be defeated. These can be liberated the same way that you would liberate an asset card. I would defend using my defensive score, and you would attack using your offensive score. Leader cards cannot be destroyed, only occupied. Although you can't directly defeat leader cards in this instance, you can use things like policy cards or other leader card abilities to remove them from office, weakening them if you were to attack them this way. Alright, well this has been a basic overview of Summit. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. If you like this video and want to see more Summit content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.